Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. You started off by talking about Clayton Christensen, which was a great story about don't blow your life, basically, because he's talked about all these graduates from Harvard that had gone down a dark path in their lives, and he said, here's how you can prevent yourself from doing it. But then later on in that section, you talked about your great grandfather, I believe it was Stephen Matt Covey, and I thought this story relative to your dad is a powerful story. Could you share that?
You already know. My passion and my mission to help you unleash your greatness within. My heart goes out to the underdogs that's on their way. If you think you can go from good to great, okay, let's motivate. GreatnessWithin.com. CJ Hoisington. GreatnessWithin.com.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And it kind of illustrates the importance of beginning with the end in mind, and how everyone listening right now, you have a mission. You have an important purpose. There's things that only you can do. And sometimes you need to step back and ask yourself, what is life asking of me? Looking at your whole life, right? And you might, for example, need to be the peacemaker in your family. Maybe your family's getting torn apart and you're the one that can help bring them back together. Or maybe, there's something at work, a certain role that you need to take on, a responsibility, right? You have a sense for what that is. So going to that story, if you've ever been to Salt Lake City, there's a hotel downtown called Little America. It's kind of a famous hotel, and it's much bigger now than it used to be. But many years ago, my great-grandfather, Stephen Matt Covey, lived in Wyoming, and he was a shepherd, of all things. He had a lot of sheep. One night during the winter, he was caught in a storm. It got to 30 below. He was freezing. He thought he was going to die. And he was in his 20s, and he, at that moment, prayed and he said, God, if you will save me, I will build a refuge right here on this very spot in memorial. He made it through the night. Many years later, he remembered his promise. He sold a lot of sheep. He built a hotel right there on the plains of Wyoming where he almost died, right along a truck stop route. Became very popular, called it Little America. And then he moved to Salt Lake City and built a bigger version of Little America and had a successful hotel going. His son, my grandfather, Stephen G. Covey, ran the hotel. My father was raised as a little hotel brat, right? Running around the hotel, watching his dad run it. As the oldest son, he was going to be the next guy to operate the hotel, right? Being primed for that. Went to Harvard Business School, came back so they could do the transition from father to son to run the hotel. While he was at Harvard, he said, I discovered my passion for teaching and for people and for paradigms and principles. And it's a whole new world for me. And I didn't want to be a hotel operator. I didn't want to run the family business. I wanted to be a teacher, but I was so afraid to tell my dad. So he got his courage up one day after returning home. Dad, I don't want to run the hotel. I want to be a teacher. I'm so sorry. I know how disappointing this must be for you. His dad looked at him and said, you know what, Stephen? I never liked business myself. You be a teacher. And so he became a teacher. My uncle, John, asked him, well, if you don't want to run the hotel, what do you want to do? He said, I want to unleash human potential. He was in his 20s, young 20s when he said that. But he had this sense of mission about what he wanted to do, that he could do this. And he loved teaching and changing mindsets. And so he became a professor for 30 years, and then he developed the 7 habits through all of this and really pursued his passion and his vision for becoming a teacher. And when he passed away, that's what he wanted on his tombstone, a teacher. So that's just a great example of someone that was really mission driven, and it's not unique to him. I think we all have a sense of mission. He always used to say, you don't invent your mission, you detect it. Think about that. You don't invent it, you detect it. In other words, it's inherent in you. You know what it is, and you've got to sense what it is. And so in this chapter, we encourage people to write a personal mission statement. And the power of getting a really good mission, a constitution personal constitution of your own life, what's important to you, what you value, what you uniquely can accomplish, what the contribution is you can make to the world. And everyone can have one. It doesn't have to be long or short. It can be whatever you think it should be. It's not, you don't have to share it with others. You can. I've shared it with my wife, and that's about it. My own personal one. I've had a lot. I've narrowed it down to one sentence. It means a lot to me. It drives me every day. And it has to do with my family and my contribution at my work. And so I don't want to underestimate the importance of having a personal mission. And if you have one, great, refine it. If you haven't written one, take the time to do so. And watch the magic it can produce.
I love that, and I agree with it wholeheartedly.